Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I will share more information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH hypnosis session. I will be reading from a transcript, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'll be speaking of the practitioner who's reading me questions I've prepared in advance of the session, unless she otherwise states. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from the 25th dimension. But before I start reading, I would like to thank you as always for subscribing to my channel and for liking and commenting on this video. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump in. Lorrayne, this question you have actually already answered, but I'm going to read it again just in case you have any more to add. Why did this thing recall, so the recall of this thing, why did it not happen prior to the original takedown deadline, since you told us it has to happen for us to be ready to move on? Is this one of the reasons we decided to stay behind? Me. Yes, yeah, exactly. We want to see this. It's important for us to see it, and we're already explained at length, so we're not going to go into it again. But basically, the reason it didn't happen before the original timeline deadline is because the impulse had already been input into the matrix, and things just didn't keep progressing the way we expected. So again, we've explained we never know how something is going to go. There is no scripted future, but everything has been going well enough in the sense of, for example, the people going to 3D chambers, they decided they were going to leave their body behind, but they moved on. It wasn't a big deal. We're not really had major delays except for the impulse, and that has changed several things. But again, we're dealing with it too. Doesn't mean we're staying here that much longer. So yeah, basically the recall of this thing has also affected, was also affected. Basically, the energy change is what happened, and many felt it. We know that many felt it. You felt it. Many of us felt it. We knew this was happening. We just didn't know what we were experiencing at a conscious level. And I have to say, and I remember this so vividly, in the few days prior to the original timeline range, because they gave us a couple of weeks here and there, give and take at the beginning of July for the takedown. In the several days prior to when that window was going to happen, I remember several people in the Telegram group saying, I feel like something has shifted. And of course, we didn't think anything of it because, some of us feel all kinds of energy. And so we all feel it, but some of us are aware of feeling all kinds of energy. So things do shift, but we didn't realize what we were dealing with. And of course, then they explained to us that's what happened. And also, I wanted to say, if you don't remember what happened when the new impulse was input in the matrix, I will link before, check in the description box below. I will link the video where I talk about the new impulse in the matrix, because that's when basically when the 25th showed me that source input new energy into this game, and everything has changed since. All right, Lorrayne, thank you. Many countries have already sent back a bunch of doses of this thing and said that some brands of these things are not safe. When talking about a recall, are we expecting a total recall in the United States or the WHO or the US government saying that these things are not as safe as they initially thought? We assume that Pfizer or other manufacturers are not going to recall them voluntarily. So what is it going to look like exactly? And I don't know if you guys know, this is just hot off the presses, I guess. I don't know if you guys know that in the last couple of days, I think this happened 2 or 3 days ago, in the United States, they have removed all mandates for the thing. and so we're trying to figure out, and the session was done prior to this, but we're trying to figure out, what is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be removing the recommendation to get it? Is it supposed to be like removing the mandate? Basically, we're trying to get details here so that we know exactly what to expect. Me. Yeah, so we're waiting for the US. We're waiting for the US because the CDC, in addition to the WHO, but really the CDC has been instrumental in pushing this on the rest of the world. So yes, that's what we're waiting for this to happen here. We basically need to hear from official sources, which would be the US government, saying this is not acceptable. We're stopping this. There's no state of emergency anymore. And so we're going to stop the recommendation to get the thing, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's going to be a whole avalanche, a snowball effect. And yeah, so it has to be in the United States. So again, we've seen this, they removed the mandates. Does that mean that they removed the recommendation? I don't think that's what it means. I think that just means that remove the mandates means that they're saying that there's no emergency anymore. So I guess that's the one step. And then eventually maybe they'll recommend people not to get it like they've done in Denmark. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this thing that just happened where in Denmark, I want to say this was maybe a few weeks ago, they basically said that as of August 1st this year, they would not give this to the thing to children under 18. And that as of September 1st, they would not even do boosters for them anymore. And unless it was, a particularly challenging situation, because they're saying, if you're immunocompromised, you might really need the protection, which sounds to me like they're just in a hurry to take some people out. If you're already immunocompromised, maybe you shouldn't be taking toxins. But that's just me. Clearly I'm not a doctor. All right, Lorraine, thank you. Okay. Has any of us who are left behind now been on the other two planets that were taken down in the multiverse? And if so, what we want is experience again? Me, yes. So some of us have, yes, and we want this experience again. One is because even though we may have gone through it already, it's still a very unique experience. That's not something that you get to do very often, luckily, when in the Matrix. And two, because this was going to be different this time, we're going to do it differently. So it's still going to be a new experience for many of us. So that's why. So yes, some of us actually have gone through more than just one takedown, but this takedown is special. And so that's why we want to repeat the experience in that sense. Also, some of us have been through the previous takedowns, one or both of the previous takedowns. Some of us played roles that we didn't necessarily enjoy or that we wanted to revisit. And that's why we're doing this. We're basically giving ourselves another chance to either behave differently or deal with things differently. This is why some of us have come back. Lorraine, thank you. Okay, who's behind the shooting of Japan's prime minister? And why did this happen? Was he of the light or the dark? Me. He was not of the light. Obviously, he was a politician, and he's done his fair share of things that we wouldn't like to hear about. But he was detaching himself, and dangerously so. In the sense, not only dangerous for himself, and we know how that ended, because it was the dark, obviously taking him out, but also dangerously for the dark. Now, the dark has known that things have not been going well. Really, from the beginning, things did not go well. Even when they initially, in the very beginning, announced, oh my goodness, the sky's falling. Right from the very beginning, they got pushed back. There were many of us who did not believe this narrative for 1 second. And so that's why they've been trying to push, and tighten the screw more and more, because so many were not accepting the narrative. And of course, it's all falling apart now. Very, very few people are even interested in hearing about this. It's almost like we're talking about ancient history. But yeah, so basically, he was not okay with what they were doing. For his own reasons, he decided that he wasn't going to be part of this. And not because he was a particularly good man, because again, we like to judge here, right? He was still a politician. He still got there by doing all kinds of things that we know politicians have to do to get to that level. But even within the dark, it doesn't mean that they all agree with things. They're all a block. Just like on the side of the light, on the team of the light, we can have a discussion like 100 of us. We would all have different ideas. So even on the side of the dark, he decided he wasn't going to go along with that, and he paid the price for it. Now he's done a good deed by his people in that sense. He's done other things that were not great. But in this case, he did spare them a lot of what has happened in other countries. And even though technically the Japanese, the reason they are Japanese is because they want to behave in a certain way, very collectivistic, The individual is bad, or it's selfish to think as an individual. And even then, he showed them something. Where you can be different, you can take care of yourself. It's okay. It's not selfish. When things are bad at a collective level, you can prioritize yourself, because by prioritizing yourself, you're helping the community. I thought this was beautiful, actually. I never thought about it this way. And so he did a good deed by them. I mean, that's why he's missed by many. But the good news is that somebody better, I mean, somebody who is, again, there aren't that many people left on the side of the light or the dark, and we're not supporting them anyway. But so yeah, everybody who needs to be replaced is going to be replaced by somebody better in that sense. So it's okay. They're going to be okay. Lorraine, thank you. Since this was the dark team that did this, Claire would like to know how they still have the manpower to pull off this kind of thing. Me. Yeah, they do. I mean, just because they can't find people, they still have some people that work for them. Even when you think about the fact that 10% at the time was left, now it's a little bit less, they will still find, you know, how many people does it take to do an operation like this? If it is a priority, they'll find people. They just don't have enough people to maintain. We already described how the dark system has encompassed the entire planet. It's like, imagine all corporations together. That's how big this dark system is. It's like you've got to cover everything, every country, every niche, everything, every nook and cranny. And so you always have operations going on. And this is your activity. These are your daily activities. They're just not able to maintain all those operations. They've had to let go and pull back in a lot of areas. But that doesn't mean that everything is impossible for them to do. So they still have things that they are doing. And we're seeing it in the United States. We still have the actor in charge and other stuff. So they do control certain things. They still are able to maintain certain things. And remember, we want them to maintain certain things because we don't want to deal, like, imagine how freaked out everybody would be if the person that plays the president took off his mask on television. I mean, the world would stop, okay? Doesn't matter how awake you are, the world would stop. We don't want this. So we do want the dark to keep this thing going. That's another reason why some of the dark are saying, we need this to continue. We don't want it to fall apart. We said this before, we don't want to deal with complete collapse because that would not be fun, not even for a day. We would not enjoy even for a day to be in a collapse situation, like a post-apocalyptic movie or something. Lorraine, thank you. Is the person that is currently the Prime Minister of Japan on the side of the dark or the light? Me. He's in the middle. He's in the middle because you have to be in the middle to do that. You're not going to be on the team of the light. We are not interested in becoming prime minister. And so it's kind of middle, like he's being lured. Of course, he's being courted. He knows people on the side of the dark, but he also knows that we're all tending towards the light. We're not going to do certain things. And basically, what he's saying when he's being pushed to do certain things, he's saying, well, right now it's not safe, you know, the world is on high alert, because of course he's afraid for his life too, right? But he's wiggling his way through. So he's convinced them to wait. Okay, let's just see how things settle because I'm so new, etc., etc. So he's taking time, and so far so good. I mean, it hasn't been very long. Lorraine, good. Okay, Claire would like to know what's going on with the internet providers having issues in different countries where entire areas are shut off for a day or more, and people can't use their ATM cards or pay their bills. What is going on there? Me. They are resetting their system. The entire infrastructure is being reset, so they're just resetting their system. You know, these are not white hat operations necessarily, but it's areas where the white hats have been working. And again, it's people in the middle. They're doing a lot of the work. That's why it's not necessarily just a life thing, but they're reorganizing things. So when you discover these glitches, these things that happen, it's either because they're being reorganized or they're being taken down and replaced. And you might not even know that some of these companies have been replaced or a lot of systems have been replaced. So that's what's happening. Lorraine, is this the same thing with banks and ATMs? Me. Yes, because banks are very, very much a vehicle of the dark. So yeah, now the banks are fighting. The banks are trying to hold on to their way of doing business. And so many times, even after these resets, doesn't mean that the bank are all love and light, yeah? I mean, sometimes they're just trying to strengthen their own systems because they know what's happening. So just because an ATM system goes down doesn't mean it's because the white hats got to the bank necessarily. Lorraine, thank you. We've also heard stories of people having their mortgages completely zeroed out, their credit card debt completely wiped out. Is this true? And if so, who's behind it? Me. So they just told me that it's not always true. Some people say it, but it's not true. And they say it because they're trying to make themselves look special or look like they're insiders. We're thinking of a specific person on the internet. She said that she had one credit card, it was paid off. It's actually not true. But yes, there have been people whose debt has been erased, but it was mostly because, of course, they're using some people as guinea pigs, in a good way as guinea pigs, okay? And say, okay, how would this work? How would the people take it? Would they think, oh my God, what's going on? So there's that. And also some others are because they found a loophole, like say a mortgage was never really recorded. So there's multiple things going on at the same time. So yes, these things do happen. They don't happen as often as we're told, but they do happen. I'm still waiting. Just letting you know, hasn't happened to me yet. Hope never dies. Lorraine, okay. You told us that we would have not agreed to stay longer unless reality had become a lot more fluid here, but we have not really seen it being more fluid. Reality rules seem to be just as fixed. Me, yes, it depends on how you're looking at it. The truth is, a lot of us have intended things for our lives, and they're happening without any resistance, really. And so things have improved for a lot of people. We already discussed how lots of things have improved for people on the ground. And so in that sense, reality is much more fluid. Even again, some of the things we've seen come unstuck, just as at a collective level or institutional level, really, that would have never happened otherwise in the past. It would have never happened. So yes, reality is very much fluid. Now, if you think by fluid, if you're thinking that it's going to be like you're on your earth, then of course there's no comparison. You can't do that here. We don't even want to see it here. Again, we want to keep this planet pretty much 3D. But yes, it's very much more fluid. You can intend, there is much less resistance, much less denseness for you to sift through and go through when you intend something. Things are happening much more quickly. So I hope you've actually explored and experienced this for yourself. I've seen that happen in my life in a couple of instances where things just go very smoothly, whereas normally I'm always bracing myself because everything like takes forever in getting done. So hopefully you guys are having some fun with this creation process. At any rate, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.